All right, I'm Blake Killen. This is my coaching conversation for IL 651, and I'm here with Coach Tim Clark. He's a second-year teacher at West Morgan High School. So, Coach, kind of the first thing we're going to talk about is our instructional leadership standards here at the University of Alabama and State of Alabama for principals and assistant principals. Some of the ones that we're covering in our class right now are standards 4.3 and 4.4. That deal with using differentiated instruction to create rigor while also meeting the needs of all students. So how do you differentiate instruction in your class to meet the needs of all students while also promoting academic rigor? So I guess, how do you promote rigor without watering it down and kind of keep your stuff on the same level for the different students and their different learning needs?
All right, so for example, in my class, we do a lot of, as far as with syntax, as far as with guided note reading. So as far as keeping students active, also activity-wise, we do modified jigsaw. So as far as we'll have, whether they're individually or with a group, they'll talk with each other and they'll have to interview somebody else from another table and basically have to talk to different tables and to get the whole information, then have to be able to have discourse with each other. All right, and also with sometimes with a formative assessment as well, we'll have higher orientated thinking questions as far as for an exit slip, and then we'll have a review as far as just a class discussion with those said questions. So that's some of the ways.
So you do all those different things that kind of differentiate it and let everybody learn in kind of different ways.
Yes, sir.
And I know one thing with the jigsaw, I've done that activity in my classes too. So one way you can really do a good job of differentiating instruction with that is, jigsaw, you probably have like 4 groups and they're all working on a different piece to the puzzle of whatever standard it is you're working on. Right. So, say you're working the causes of World War I, then one group's got militarism, one group's got imperialism, one group's got assassination, one group's got nationalism. And one way I found is good to differentiate with that activity is that you can take, your students that are higher performing and a little more advanced, you give them the hardest part of the jigsaw. And then your students that are a little slower to grasp things, they kind of get the easier portion. And you can kind of mix up your groups based on grade level so that you don't have all your lower performing students together because, research kind of shows that, and the data kind of shows that when students that are lower reading levels or lower mastery, sometimes working with a student of higher mastery and hearing them read and hearing them talk actually helps them. So I think that's a great way you could differentiate that activity, a little more as you go. But that's a great answer right there. The second kind of group of standards that we're working with here is 6.3 and 6.7 deal with school leaders being able to provide actionable feedback that helps teachers grow professionally. So when a principal or a leader or a mentor teacher, like when they've observed you teach before, what is some advice or some feedback that you've got from a lesson or just in your career that has helped you to grow as a teacher?
In my career, from other educators and administration said, be the teacher that you wish you had. So as far as when it comes to growing rapport with your students, truly understanding, hey, do my students understand and retain, can they recall the information that's being taught? And that puts more of a responsibility on me as far as, okay, if this if we're going over World War II alliances and they're not understanding the domino effect of how the World War II started, okay, what do I need to change in my lesson to help them understand and prepare? All right, so that's just one thing I say. So that just really helps incorporate with relationships with the kids, understanding the student, and also am I putting the student in the best situation to succeed and understand and learn.
So you're kind of just putting yourself in the kids' shoes, like how would I want to be taught?
Yeah.
And that's one thing you definitely do awesome is build a great rapport for your teachers. And you got the old saying that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Like, and I can see that with you. The kids know they care about them. They know you care about them, and that's going to lead you to being able to use different instructional strategies, different things, because you've got that relationship with them. You know how they learn, and I think that's really going to help you a lot in being able to differentiate instruction. Good answer there. All right, the last standard we're kind of talking about as far as our IL standards is 7.6 deals with professional learning opportunities through collaboration with faculty and staff. So it's important in schools that the faculty and staff have an opportunity to collaborate, whether it's subject levels or grade levels or whatever it is. But what are some ways that you have collaborated with other faculty that has helped you?
Yeah, so our history department this year, we to promote basically comprehension and literacy with reading, we decided to have all of our classes go to the library and have to check out a book, and we had basically a book log, and we had individualized time each week whether it was Friday, Monday, whatever fit best into the teacher's schedule, and it was just them reading and understanding. So for my class, for example, they would write down the amount of pages they wrote, and then at the end, they have to write a book summary. So essentially what they wrote and understood. And after going through it, their ACT reading scores went up, their comprehension levels went up. And so just seeing that as a history department as a whole, how we collaborated and helped enhance their comprehension literacy skills.
And we actually, it was kind of cross-curriculum there because one of the teachers, Miss Holiday, that kind of wanted us to implement that, she was an English teacher as well. And I can speak to that. We saw the benefit of it because I did that in my class as well. So the data even showed, like with our progress learning, with our ACT reading scores, like it went up because of that. So, that's one of the very important things in education and in teaching is not just blindly having instructional strategies. Like it wouldn't make sense to just make a kid read a book and write a report. But the data says that as they're doing that, their reading is, everybody's reading is getting better and our scores are increasing across all levels. So the data is showing that instructional practice is working. So I think even going forward next year, as a history department and in your classes, like we can continue to add reading across the curriculum, continue to add primary source activities, continue to add just ways that kids can read and write because the data shows that that's working. So that's very important that you're allowing the data to drive your decisions there while you're collaborating and working across curriculums to teach reading. All right, just a couple more things right here. So when teaching a standard, and just like pick any standard that you might have taught this year, any unit, but when teaching a standard, what are the instructional strategies do you feel like that have worked really well to help students master a standard? And then how do you adjust that strategy if a student is not able to comprehend the standard?
Okay, so I have an example. So my first year teaching last year, I believe we might have been into I think it's the Renaissance. So in Renaissance, we're looking at the Italian city-states, and then I think we ended up having a quiz and had a test over that unit and looking at it. We had a study guide, and then we had a test, and seeing the scores were low. And then I went to myself, okay, how can we enhance their understanding? A lot of kids didn't understand. So what I ended up implementing after that, and I still do teaching wise now, we have a study guide day and a review game day. So now we have a day where, hey, we're learning, we're asking questions, we're searching for the answers, all right? And then the next day we're putting it into place before we go into the test. So essentially like a game, we have our practice, we have our review going all our stuff that will possibly be on the test, and then a lot of kids, I got a lot of feedback from the kids saying, hey, I really enjoyed the review games that we did, that they saw, like, hey, even though I wasn't, it was a review game that we did, even though I wasn't up there, the kids are engaged and they want to understand what we're learning during that time, and they want to win the game overall, and that ended up having better test results.
Awesome. So again, the data said that they had not mastered the standard that you were teaching, so you made an adjustment, gave some remediation to make sure that there was mastery before you moved on to the next thing, right? And that's very important as a young teacher is growing. Again, like what does the data say? How do we adjust it to get better data and get better results? And then the last thing is, what technology do you incorporate into your class to help meet the individual learning needs of students?
So for example, with Chromebooks, I use we do primary source reading. Sometimes it's from their Chromebooks as well, and it's a group read as far as maybe it's a popcorn. Sometimes I use videos as well, where, for example, if we're talking about the Cold War, and then the overarching high order thinking questions, it might be along as, hey, how do you feel about America's foreign policies and diplomacies and foreign relations with other countries as far as helping allies, etc. But a lot of when it comes to primary sources, if we don't print them out, we use our Chromebook. Sometimes I put it on the board and we all read it. A lot of times with propaganda, when we're teaching it, having certain pictures put on our smart board, our screen that we use, our vision board, all right, and other things like that as well. And even in our reviews and our work, that'll be also I use the Chromebook as well.
Yeah, that's great. And one thing I think could really help with that too is if you use the technology so that the students can be involved in the instruction and responses. There's a lot of research that shows that students that have the ability to respond to something, they master it a little better. So I think one thing you could do is use formative technology. The lights just went out. such as informational technology, such as like a Padlet or something where they can respond. So you've got a question about the causes of the Cold War and they're responding on their Chromebooks through the Padlet app, and it's showing their answers on the screen. So you're giving them an opportunity to respond. Their classmates can see their response, and then you're able to really draw on their response, go deeper into it. But I've found that kind of informational technology like that, where it's interactive and the kids can respond, they can see what other kids are saying, they can come up with their own responses across the room or whatever. I think that really helps with student engagement and could lead to student achievement and data and scores and stuff like that being better. So that's one way I think you could really do a good job of getting that instructional technology into your class. All right, thank you for taking the time to answer these questions.
Yes, sir.